and a very good morning to all of you. So, participants, I myself, Siddharth, the trainer here. So, before I go ahead and get started, a quick introduction about myself. I'm a certified Azure data engineer, currently working as a data engineer and machine learning engineer at my company, where I go ahead and work with team members, where I play a very vital role in building applications that are expected to go ahead and handle the data. So I do use a lot of Apache Spark to work with, and I use Databricks, Synapse, and a lot of Azure modules. And I have about 10 plus years of working experience around this. And I'm certified in Azure Data Engineer DP203, and I'm certified Databricks Data Engineer as well. So, participants, that sums up my experience. Now, participants, coming to the agenda, we are getting to learn in this program about Microsoft Azure. This is the Microsoft Azure Cloud Platform. And we will get to see, participants, how Microsoft does go ahead and offer their services to use the data that we get and build analytic solutions on top of it. That is the primary agenda of this training program. And we have been building content around it. And also, participants, we have been building the TOC to address this. So I hope, participants, you can see my screen now with regards to content as well. Do you see the Word document? Now let's understand, before we get to go ahead, and let's understand the mapping of what you will have to learn, what you will learn, what you have to learn, and what you will learn, and how this learning can help you. So participants, today we will go ahead and understand a lot about the services mapping in detail. So participants, where does it all starts? It all starts with an idea that a company wants to go ahead and build solutions to do some analysis for their business, and they want to go ahead and make some necessary decisions based upon the analysis, business decisions. We are not going into those details. So they want to analyze their sales, how the sales are happening, how the products are getting sold. They want to analyze all this information. Now they have various stores all across the country where the data is being collected. S1 store, S2 stores, just for information, where data is being collected. This is where data is being collected all across. That means transactions takes place here. We get to see transactions taking place here. And participants, now company wants to go and see all of this data. So for this, the first and foremost thing I have to address, if I have been hired for this company as a data engineer, is to take care of their storage. Where exactly I would need to get the data stored. Upon the storage, what I'll address is I'll go and address the processing of it. How do we get to process the data? Even if you want to go and do an analysis, participants, first thing what you do, you collect the data and then you start taking decisions on based upon the data. So for example, you want to go and visit a good restaurant. The first thing that you'll collect the data about is the restaurants around me or the restaurants that are around the specific area, and then you'll get to see the reviews of it. That means you have collected the data about the restaurants around it and applied a filter that which are the best restaurants. Am I good, everyone? So based on the same logic, now company wants to go ahead and get all the data for the analysis purpose pulled across, and they want to go and do processing on top of it. So first thing we need to address is the storage capabilities, where exactly we need to store the data and where exactly we need to process it. So participants, know if you get to the stores, so what happens inside the stores? Inside the stores, we get to see transactions taking place. What do we get to see? Transactions, as I mentioned. That means what is the sale of a particular item, what is the sale of a particular product. Those gets registered and recorded. You call this as OLTP. OLTP means online transactional processing. That means records are created. So all these records are now required to be brought at one place to do a aggregation. I want to get to see the total sales that are taking place across all the states. I need to go ahead and get them pulled into one loop. So participants, let's go ahead and call this as a data warehouse solution. Why data warehouse solution? A warehouse is nothing but, participants, if you just generally look at the definition of a warehouse is nothing but a place where we go ahead and host the stock. If you get to a warehouse, what you get to see in a warehouse, you'll get to see proper arrangement of all the stocks of various categories of a particular company, a huge data warehouses you might have seen. So now that you have data with you, now I need to go ahead and put a data warehouse for it. So data warehouse is now going to go ahead and address your storage requirements, as well as now coming to processing. So the world's popular technology to process as of today is SQL. We will go ahead and use SQL programming to do the processing of the data. You take up an Excel sheet, run certain queries on it. You can filter those queries and you can see in the background SQL strategies applied. So now this data has been made available as part of a data warehouse. You applied SQL and you are able to bring data and reporting to this company, and the company is saying thank you. Thank you very much for building this solution. So participants, everyone, have you understood now? At a very high level, I try to go ahead and show you that in order to go ahead and build analytic solutions, I need to collect the data from various sources, like various stores at this moment, got them placed inside a location called data warehouse, and I try to process the data using SQL and got the results displayed on the dashboards. Is that very clear, everyone? Participants, am I clear? Now, participants, life is not that simple, participants, that you just get the data from all locations, you place it and process it, and you get the results generated. It's very, very complex than what you think. Why? Because let's go ahead and understand a little about something now that I want you to understand is what I want you to understand is when I say data, participants, the data is just that you'll get all your records. No, data is not just the records. Data can be records if you have decided to store in the form of record. Maybe records are being generated through the mobile applications, right? On mobile app, there have been requests coming from mobile applications. Even that is something you have planned to go and store in the form of record. But participants, have you ever noticed when reviews are given, reviews do not come in the form of a record. They come in the form of a kind of a document you can consider. That means my reviews will definitely be different to a review that you have given, because your review is your personal, my review is my personal. So now if I want to go and do analysis of my review, strategy that I need to apply is that I need to store the data in the form of documents. And participants, I have something like a social media store. I have a social media platform where I get to see people uploading images about the products that they are making. So I want to analyze that stream also. I want to analyze the reviews also. But now, what is the point I want to go and highlight is that, participants, that the data that was pretty simple earlier, now the data has changed over a period of time into various formats. That means if your data is available to you, participants, not necessarily the data will be always structured to you. The data will also be unstructured to you. Examples: images, documents, reviews, these all fall under unstructured. Structured category falls under records, data that is pulled from your mobile apps that fall under your records. That means this storage that I have decided will be definitely different to this storage. Am I good, everyone? The storage that I'm going to go ahead and target to store my data will be different when compared to my storage with regards to unstructured data. Structured data storage will be different to unstructured data. Am I good, everyone? Now that you have understood a little about data now, participants, let's go ahead and understand about the storage now. Now, with regards to storage, I need to go ahead and design such a storage where I can store my structured data as well as my unstructured data at one place. Now I have to consider that storage where I have to go and store structured data and unstructured data at one place. Now, participants, Technically, we have a name for it. We call it as data lake. Participants, will you memorize this word? Data lake, everyone? Participants, will you memorize this word? Now you have understood about the data lakes. Now, participants, let's go ahead and understand a little about the next. Now, what we have decided after the storage, we'll go ahead and process the data. So now let's focus on processing. Now, participants, if you get to see processing of your data, when you come to processing of your data, there are a lot of engines, but the top engines are Spark and SQL at this moment for now for our discussion. Am I good, everyone? You have decided to store the data. I address the data storage with data lake. Now I'm deciding to go ahead and process the data. For processing the data, let's go ahead and understand what are the popular streams that are available. There are a lot of streams. I'm not going into all those details. I'm just focusing on these details that involve Spark and SQL. I have to use Spark and I have to use SQL. These are the two popular things with regards to processing. Storage we have already addressed. Now, participants, if I go ahead and look at Spark, the category of services that we get to see under the Spark, very popular strategy or popular tools you can call it as. One is Databricks, number one solution. If you get to see Microsoft Azure, you'll find Synapse. You'll get to see from other cloud providers. If you are in Google, you'll get to see BigQuery. You'll get to see AWS Athena if you're using AWS and Glue and so on. These are very popular categories that are available. SQL, anyhow, we are using SQL for our programming. So, what I want to go ahead and draw your attention, participants, now to process it, we need a data warehousing solution that can be attached with Spark and SQL. For those examples are Synapse, BigQuery, Athena. These are from AWS Cloud. This is from Google Cloud, and just highlighting from Azure standpoint. So now we need a data warehouse solution. So we address the data warehouse to process the data involving Spark and SQL, the categories you found. Now, participants, let's go ahead and understand a little about a unified solution that you can go ahead and consider, participants. So what is a unified solution, participants? Now, companies are looking forward is why can't we go ahead and okay. Now, participants, companies are looking forward to address the requirement where can we go ahead and bring data lake plus the data warehouse that you're targeting. It's now good that we can go ahead and get the data from data lake and process it through warehouse. So if you start to take some understanding about it, the data lake at one place and data warehouse in other, you go ahead and join them together, participants. A new word has taken up called lake house. Participants, will you memorize a new word called lake house, everyone? Participants, I hope you will now onwards memorize a new word called lake house. Now, let's get to the summary of what we have discussed thoroughly here by connecting with all these. So, participants, what I was discussing, what are the services that I talked about? I talked about a service which address you to address your data storage, which was data lake at the first. Thereafter, data warehouse. Thereafter, I was discussing about data lake house. I was discussing about Spark programming. I was discussing about SQL. I was discussing about BI solution. If you are into machine learning, you can also address machine learning. But for now, participants, let's focus on the main aspects that we need to go ahead and address data lakes, data warehouses, lake houses, Spark, SQL, BI, and solution. And one thing over this entire process that I did not go ahead and highlight is that participants is this. That is, how do you go ahead and take care data movement? Movement means from one place to another place. How do you move your data? Maybe from source to data lake. How do you from source to data warehouse? How do you lake house? How do you move your data? So data movement is also an important solution that we need to go ahead and consider. And that is where participants, the topic of our discussion gets started. Now, Microsoft Azure has been very, very strong in this vertical, and Microsoft Azure decided to go ahead and help their customers to go ahead and give all these services at one place. Are you with me, everyone? So, what Microsoft Azure says, using these services, you can go ahead and handle your data engineering. So, participants, the first thing that Microsoft Azure addresses is data lake. Now, let's go ahead and do the mapping into the Microsoft Azure, where you will go ahead and understand the services that are being offered and start to use it. So in Azure participants, we call this data lake concept as Azure Data Lake Storage Generation. This is what we call it as Azure Data Storage Generation Tool, a service. So here is one service participants that you will get to see the data getting stored across data lakes, which is part of our module 4, but it has been mentioned here just that we need to go and do the data movement. So I just address the data movement. So one such service that you need to go and focus is data lake, Azure Data Lake Storage. So now participants, as I mentioned, if Azure Data Lakes addresses, then how do you get to move your data? To move your data participants in Microsoft Azure, we have a service called Azure Data Factory. Memorize this word, Data Factory. So Data Factory is one such module participant where we'll go ahead and understand a lot about data with regards to extraction from source, transformation from source, loading. I hope if you are from background of ETL, you should have connected by now that ETL helps you to extract from source, transform from extract from your source, transform accordingly, and load into your location. So it is done by Data Factory. So we have a lot of modules around Data Factory, like you get to see module 3 focuses on the concepts around it, understanding it, configuring with your storage accounts with Data Factory, working with the Data Factory, working with the services that are around the Data Factory to handle the activities, to move data around from sources like SQL databases, logging and what is happening inside your data factory, capturing those data factory CDC, and triggering the pipelines into it. A lot about data factory, data flows, transformations. Somewhere around good number of modules we will be taking up with data lake and data factory because we have to address storage and movement. Store and move. So now participants, did you understand the purpose of data factory, everyone? Participants, what you will do after you have brought up the data using data factory, you move the data. So what you will do, you will go ahead and do programming with SQL or you will do programming with Spark. If you go ahead and get to see SQL capabilities participants, it is available from services like Synapse. It is available services in Databricks and also available Spark is available in Databricks and also Synapse. That means you can use any of participants. I hope most of you are comfortable with SQL, but Spark shall be a very new subject for all of you. Spark is completely a new subject for most of the people I am aware of. Spark is participants today's the number one programming engine or apologies processing engine offered in Databricks Synapse, but this is a number one engine. That means you should be very, very strong in making Apache Spark programming using a technology like Python. That means you should use Python to go and talk to Apache Spark. Apache Spark is a memory code. That means you have to write in binary ones and zeros, which you will not be able to write. Where Python is the human understandable language. Humans understand this language, so you can write the logics for Apache Spark in Python, and that's how a new subject evolved, new API evolved called PySpark. So you can use PySpark for this one. So you can use PySpark in Databricks, Synapse, Databricks and Synapse, that too for Spark and SQL together. And that is the reason, participants, I have devoted good number of modules around it. You'll see Azure Synapse Analytics, Azure Synapse Analytics, integration of pipelines, monitoring and administration, leveraging Apache Spark in Synapse. You see that? Then we get to see what exactly you would get to do operations in Synapse. So focus is on Azure Synapse also, so that you'll be good in programming with Spark, programming with SQL, will be good across it. And then participants complete dedication. We will focus into Azure Databricks. Azure Databricks is a very very sound skill. You have to be very strong in Azure Databricks because this is one of the highly asked skill in interviews. They'll ask you a lot of questions around Databricks. Databricks itself is a bigger subject, itself is a separate topic, where at a very high level, you will get to go and do data warehousing equal using SQL data warehousing. You'll get to see services involving Spark programming, uh, Jupyter notebooks usage. You'll get to see Delta tables. You'll get to see uh, Delta, SQL programming, Python, Delta, and participants, you have to go ahead and do a lot of programming with regards to Delta. Delta is something which is very, very vital. So participants, now, not only with regards to Databricks, but also the core programming skills, you have to be very, very strong, as I mentioned. And if you want, you can just over your knowledge a little about machine learning, but this is very optional. If you want to go for it, you can just go for it. But I would recommend you to think about it if you want to go. Now, let's go ahead and get to the summary part. So what you will be learning, data lake to get started with, data factory to process, move data with regards to copy activities, data flow, programming with Spark. That means you'll be getting started to understand all the basics for Apache Spark and use the programming for Apache Spark inside Azure Synapse, Azure Databricks, and thorough skills on Azure Databricks. So this way you have addressed data movement, data lake storage, data warehousing, lakehouse, Spark capabilities, SQL capabilities, integration with BI, a little about machine learning. Now you are prepared for the industry. You got your preparation done. You are prepared for your industry. And participants, now that you are prepared for industry, or like instead of saying you have to get prepared yourself by practicing it, you have to also get this done practicing into your account. That means you should have your own accounts. And then participants, I would say you are very much prepared for the industry. That means you can take on your interns. Now that I have discussed about the topics and the agenda of this session, participants, let me go ahead and help you with this word, lake house. Just remember this word. What is this word is telling you? This word is telling you to go ahead and memorize that you will get to store your data with regards to data storage in data lakes. Correct? You will get to process it. Now there is a data warehousing requirement where your warehouse capabilities are being taken up. That is through SQL data warehousing, a service that is available in Databricks that is available. So now I'll answer your question. Lakehouse is a popular technology, something that a lot of companies have adapted to. Databricks was the first company to brand this idea. That means there is a concept called Lakehouse. People started to go and explore it. Databricks was the first company. They could go ahead and offer data storage using data lakes like ADLS, Azure Data Lake Storage, and data warehousing involving SQL data warehouse. So what we will do there, we will go ahead and run our SQL queries. We will go ahead and run our Spark queries inside this data warehouse. So ultimately, you will store your data. That can be structured data, that can be unstructured data. You process your data using Spark and SQL under data warehousing under Databricks or Synapse. So remember the word
Yes.
lakehouse.
Yes.
Technologies are Databricks, Synapse. They provide association with data lake to store data warehousing using Spark and SQL. Spark, as I've been highlighting from now, or if you just go ahead and look at Spark, Spark is nothing but a tool that will go ahead and work inside your memory. If you open up and Spark, it will say, I'll run in memory. Now, memory level coding is done in what you call it as, I don't know, but they're the microprocessors they call it as, which you and me cannot understand, which is numbers, hexagonal numbers, hexadecimal numbers, some numbers they will be. So for you and me to write those numbers, practically impossible. That means we cannot go and talk to in-memory subject. So for this, what we have to do, we have to use some kind of translator that can translate your requirements, which you can go ahead and adapt to write, and then it does go ahead and translate it. The various languages that are currently supported by Spark module are of Python, to that of Java, to that of SQL, to that of Spark. Not Spark, what is the other language? Scala. These are the proper languages that we have. But industry is 90% and above chances are that use Python as a medium. Okay, let me give you a justification for what I am talking about. If you just go ahead and type on internet Apache Spark along with me, everyone, you will see Apache Spark is being branded by giving you offerings in various languages. One I said Python, SQL, Scala, Java, and R. This is what exactly I was talking about. Now, let's come to the answer that Ravi asked me. Python, if you use it, do I need to have strong skills around Python? Participants do think now Python as just a medium. Assuming that if you don't go ahead and use it as a medium, you should have used it for building applications. What is meant by application? Maybe you might have built an application in Python programming, using Python programming to build application, maybe an AI or machine learning application. That is purely programming part where you will go ahead and use programming to go ahead and build application, where you should have strong skills right from basics of Python to very, very strong skill in Python programming. You should be very good at it. But participants, you are not using for your application, you are using as a medium to write your logics and code. So if you have some basic context of Python, that how to print a statement, how to go and display a statement, how to go and generate a variable, some basic idea, how to do some necessary imports, you just had some basic, understanding of how Python language will work. Use that same basic Python to go ahead and write your logics. So if you want to go ahead and build applications, then go ahead and do course on Python. Then that will help you to build applications for Python. But not we are building applications here. We are just using a medium to go ahead and talk to. For example, participants, the best example I'll give. Let's say I travel to a country. For example, I've traveled to United States. So most of the people there don't go ahead and talk our native language. So now my native language is Hindi. So participants, people don't talk native language. If I start talking to Hindi, people don't understand it. That means I just need to go and use the very common language that is used, English, and get my job done. If I have some basic knowledge of English, yet I can go and communicate, right? If I went to a restaurant, I'll ask, I want a burger. So he will go and give me a burger. He'll ask me how much is mine. Just manage it. So the same logic, if you try to apply here, if you have some basic knowledge to interpret the idea that you want to go and perform some actions, that is sufficient for you to do programming with Python. Okay. Now, Ravi, that answers your question. If you want to get into full length programming, should do a programming course on Python. But this is not a programming course. This is a code where you will get to use Python as a medium. Basic knowledge should be good for you to getting started. And for your information, participants, generally how generally the language of Python will be used here. Hardly 2 to 3 lines of code is going to be available. 2 to 3 lines. If you don't understand the 2 3 lines, you can understand the summary of it. Whereas an application, the entire application, top to bottom, will be some thousands of code, thousands lines of code. That is something which is impossible for everyone. So basic information about what is meant by print statement, what is meant by read statement, how do you write it, read it, these basics you should get through. If not, I'll take a session for you. Don't worry about it. I'll take a separate session for you on Python. See, as we get to go ahead and use Spark, we will go ahead and do necessary programming in Python. But participants, keeping in mind, as we get to go ahead and move data from unstructured format as well as structured formats to a definite structure, then we will go ahead and apply SQL here. Best example I'll give. I have data that is available in the form of a CSV file. I go ahead and transform this data into a table. So the moment table comes in, what should you get to strike with? SQL. But the data is available in form of CSV. For all necessary transformation, I'll use here Python plus Spark, get all my job done. By the time I bring the data into a table to run my queries, I'll use SQL. So it depends on the requirement, it depends on situation. Participants, what is your plan with this skill for Azure Data Engineering? You're coming to learn something, but what is your plan, participants? Participants, what is your plan? You want to get, so generally I get to see the responses from people is, I want to go and shift my job. I'm looking for opportunities. Some people are just coming to explore. I came here just to explore. And some people are already working in Databricks. They want to go and enhance this. Participants, which category do you belong to? You want to shift your job. You want to go ahead and you came just for an exploration. You want to go ahead and enhance your skills in Databricks. Because participants, if your vision is very clear, if you are very clear with what you want to do, 50% of the learning is already done. Keep my understand my word, participants. If you are trying to go ahead and keep your vision very clear for what purpose you are learning, 50% of the learning is already done. Fine. Now, participants, let me summarize. Whoever are joining, whatever you're doing, just mark my words. You will see your perception will change. Participants, today, if it is day one for us, for example, participants, for example, by day 30, what is that you should have changed in? You should be strong in Spark. You should be strong in Databricks. And you should be strong in programming with Python plus Spark, PySpark. Participants, if you are strong in Spark, if you're strong in Databricks, if you're strong in programming with Python, participants, you will rule the space of data engineering. By day 30, that you should be a target. Whether you are starting your career, whether you are exploring it, whether you are looking forward to enhance your skills, this should be a core target. Why? Because participants, let me tell you the story. Today you will use Databricks, right? Tomorrow you'll use Synapse. Maybe you might use Athena. You might use BigQuery. Everywhere, whatever that you use, it will only run on Apache Spark as the engine. The entire core is Spark. Spark is the engine. That means if you can do programming with Spark, you can run on Databricks, you can run on Synapse, you can run Athena, you can run BigQuery, you can run on Snowflake, you can run anywhere where the programming is done on Apache Spark. So you should be very, very strong in Apache Spark, some programming skills, and Python programming with Apache Spark. Then you will definitely rule the space. This should be the target by end of day 30. That means you should be very strong in all these. If you can master all these participants, whichever the job you will go, you'll be able to do it. Because entire engine for all these tools is one and only one tool, which is Spark. That means you should be good in Spark, in Python programming. You can do Databricks, you can do Spark, you can do Synapse, you can do Athena, BigQuery, Snowflake, all of them. Mark my words for it. With that, participants, I thank you, all of you, for joining this session and taking your time. Have a great day ahead.